2.
I'd like to call the January 6th evening session of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners to order. Welcome all of you who are here this evening. Also welcome those of you online who are watching on our YouTube channel. This morning we opened with an invocation and a pledge, so we will not do that again tonight. Did want to again acknowledge the absence of our manager, Rick Hester, hopefully be back with us shortly. But I know he's watching, although he shouldn't be. He's watching. Rick, don't watch. And finally, I did want to mention our 6 priorities that kind of guides everything that we do sitting up here and leading the county. Those are educational funding, infrastructure, financial stewardship, land use, public safety, and our county employees. With that, we will move on, and I will look for approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we approve the agenda with the exception of item number 3, case 1604, has been moved to the February 3rd meeting.
I second the motion.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor of approving the agenda as noted with the rescheduling of the 1604, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. That brings us to the public comments. We do have a couple of people here to speak, and I'm going to introduce Greg Walker from our Soil and Water Conservation. And Greg, I don't know your official title, so if you can tell us that when you stand up there. But I made a poor attempt this morning at trying to talk about some conservation easements, and Greg's going to do a much better job this evening.
Okay, well, thank you. I was kind of prepared to be a little bit behind the back of the line back here, so I'm happy to come up first. I'm Greg Walker. I'm the director for Johnston Soil and Water Conservation District, and the last probably 4 or 5 times I've been here, I've come to talk about conservation easements. And we are probably looked upon by a lot of our cohorts around the state. They like where we are because we've got a just $12 million federal grant, but that I talked about last time. So we're sitting in a good place and planning ahead for a lot of good things to come, a lot of work too. But we've been doing this for 3 years, so we've now kind of get this. Now we're starting to see some of the fruits of our labors. So we closed an easement this past month for the Marjorie D. Langston Trust. It's a 90.4 acre easement out on Dickinson Road. And so we were really happy to get that one behind us. We got a little delay on that one because we didn't have an appraisal when we started. So we had an extra year trying to find extra money to catch back up once we got an appraisal in place. But I think that the landowners are pleased with it. I'm pleased with it. We might miss an opportunity to have a little PR out of it, but I'd love to try to make that up and strategize with you, Mr. Chairman, and maybe Adam, and figure out a strategy as we might go going forward. Because we've got 3 more coming this spring, and I'm looking forward to that too. And then we jump off in this $12 million grant kind of thing. So a lot in front of us. Any questions, or did I cover kind of what you were thinking about?
Yep, I think you have much more information than I did. So.
Well, I got a lot of information, but I'm happy to share and look forward to working with you and doing good PR for the county on this too. So,
I've got one question, Mr. Chairman. The Department of Agriculture under Commissioner Troxler has a committee for farmland preservation. Are you working in conjunction with that committee? Do you get any assistance from them?
Yeah, the Ag Development Trust Fund is his funding mechanism. Now, as of late, everybody's concerned about the budget impacts of Hurricane Helene in the West.
Right.
So coming up, we're kind of a little bit concerned about that. We don't think his budget, everybody fears that his budget might not be as strong as it has been.
Right.
And we can understand that. But yeah, that committee kind of directly affects how that program moves over time.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
not going to affect your funding.
No, it's a federal one.
Great.
So, but they got to go together. The Fed is just half of it, so I got to find the other half. So it's still plenty of work.
Okay. Thanks,
Right.
Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we've asked our tax administrator, Jocelyn Andrews, to speak. I think there's probably, most of you are here this evening, but Ms. Andrews, if you would lead us off in discussion of the reval process.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Some of this is a recap from this morning as well, but I think it bears repeating much of this because this is so important to all of us who are citizens of this county, and I want it to be clear as to what our position in the county office is. For the last couple of years, this group, the commissioners and the county, have heard me talk about reappraisal and reevaluation. As I've said before, and I will continue to say, it's state law. Don't love it. None of us enjoy it. None of us enjoy taxes, but it's just part of it. All North Carolina counties are required to conduct a reappraisal or reevaluation, as we call it in this county, of all real property. The law says that reappraisal must be conducted at least once every 8 years. Counties can choose to reduce that time frame voluntarily, as this board did in 2019. This board in 2019 chose to do a 1-year, 6-year revaluation, or a one-time 6-year revaluation, which is 2025, here we are, and then every 4 years thereafter. In instances of substantially growing or shrinking markets, the state will require counties to conduct the reappraisal sooner than it was planned in that 8-year period. Johnston County's growth triggered that advancement to 2025, but fortunately, because of the decision of this board, we were already preparing for the 2025 revaluation. Going forward, we are on a 4-year revaluation schedule, as are half of the other counties in the state. Our next revaluation, like I said earlier, is in 4 years, and that'll be in 2029. A week ago today, we mailed approximately 120,000 notices of value to the property owners of Johnston County. Those notices reflected the significant change in the real property market since 2019. They showed an overall increase of 70.6%. Some values did not increase by that much, but many others did, and some at substantially higher rates. Needless to say, it has been quite the task to conduct this reappraisal. Pearson Appraisal, our vendor, visited almost every property in the county, some more than one time. They conducted street-level reviews of the property, reviewed the property record cards to determine any obvious changes to that property. New construction in the last year or so was visited by my staff in the county tax office, and those would be my certified appraisers. My office did not randomly assign increases to individual property or to the county as a whole, but rather reflected the market in this county. Reality is, this county is a very different place. Supply and demand over the last 6 years drove up actual real estate prices. The county did not change our tax value until now. And 6 years later, here we are. This was mass appraisal. 120,000 parcels. That number shows a change of 20,000, slightly over 20,000 since the 2019 revaluation. That in itself shows the change, part of the change in Johnston County. We obviously have no more land. Our borders are still where they were. But growth and demand for property in this area caused the land that we have to be divided 20 more separate pieces of property. Let's try that again. 20,000 more separate pieces of property. Much of this has been growth in areas that had not been seeing the substantial growth. That is one of the things we have seen from this revaluation, is the areas that saw the highest increases last time are not those areas. Now let's get real. The whole county saw substantial increases. But the areas that saw some of the smaller increases last time have made up for it this time. Not by doings of the tax department, but by the supply and the demand and people going to those parts of the county. Again, this is mass appraisal. With that, that means every piece of property is not going to be 100% correct as far as their value goes. But we want our data to be accurate. So now what? We encourage all property owners to review their property record cards That's located on our website. Look at comparable sales. Look at websites that value property and talk to real estate professionals in the area. If we have something wrong, we need to know it, and we want to know it. The formal appeal process is open. Has been since last Thursday. The holidays messed me up. So last Thursday, it opened. And there are 3 ways to file an appeal. You can file it online, submit documentation with it, you're done. You can download the appeal form from our website or call our office if you choose not to visit the website or don't want to, and we will mail you a copy of the form. You complete the form, you provide us documentation, you send it back to us. Drop it off, mail it to us, either way. Or you call our office and schedule a face-to-face meeting to sit down with one of our appraisers or one of our vendor appraisers to talk about your concerns on your property. Those meetings begin tomorrow and will continue over the next several weeks. The informal appeal process, again, has opened, and it will remain open until 5 o'clock on February the 10th. That doesn't mean that on February 10th you have no more options to appeal your property. That's just the informal way to do it, and that's the easiest way for you to deal with our office and for us to be able to try to make a determination if something is wrong on our end. All appeals should include your opinion of value and documentation backing up that value or that opinion of value. That documentation could include pictures of property deficiencies, an appraisal, notification of error in the data elements that you see on the property record cards. Those are just a few of the things that you could submit to us as part of your documentation. Please note that concern over the anticipated tax bill, or just because the value went up higher than you think it should, is not a valid reason to appeal. If you believe that we are incorrect, please give us something to work with. Don't just give us your concern. Tell us why it's wrong so that we have something that we can actually make a modification to your value with. Over the last few days, I've heard a great deal talking about my property went up by X percent, therefore my tax rate's going up, or tax amount is going up by that same amount. But again, we have no clue what next 6 months is going to look like. We don't know what the tax bills will be in August when they're mailed, because this is part 1 of the process. Part 2 will be decided in June. And like I mentioned earlier today, and has been mentioned not just by me, over the last 6 years, this board has lowered the county property tax rate by 4 times. But keep in mind, the county, its needs, and the rate is constantly changing. So between now and June, this board will consider, and the town boards will consider, what their needs are during their budgetary process. And in June, both the commissioners, this board, and the various town governing boards will make a decision as to what their tax rates will be. Only then can anybody in this county tell you what your 2025 tax bill will be. So what can property owners do now? Do your homework and file an appeal if it is appropriate. Determine if you are eligible for property tax relief on one of the various programs that reduce tax. Mind you, I said reduce tax. It doesn't make your tax go away. But in certain situations, if you qualify for these programs, it does reduce them by substantial amounts. Those areas are if you're 65 or older or 100% disabled with income below the state mandated income rate of $37,900 from all sources. Again, those have to be the age, have to be if you're 100% disabled, and if that is your income or less. That is a state income threshold. If you're a disabled veteran, please contact the Veterans Affairs Office here and they can work with you on that. Or if you're an owner of a nonprofit or other qualifying entity that could get excluded from taxes, go to our website. look at the guidelines, and if you qualify, file an application for tax relief. Please note that there are deadlines, and try to get your information in as soon as possible so that we can work with you to get your decision so you know where you stand as well. If you already participate in one of these programs or have land in the PUV program for agriculture, horticulture, or forestry use, that is not reflected on this notice of value, and this reappraisal does not change that status from a previous year. One last thing as it relates to PUV, please note that we apply the tax rate to the use value adopted with the schedule of values that was also adopted by this board in October. Both of those documents are on our website, and you're welcome to look at them at any point in time. Those per acre values for properties that are in PUV are extremely low as they are statewide, and they are there to encourage preservation of farmland. Again, those values are not reflected on the notice of value because the sole purpose of the notice of value for all is to inform all Johnston County property owners of their 25 market. That is all it is there for. For additional information about reval and about any of these programs that I've talked about, I encourage you to visit our website, look at the videos, and look at the FAQs, the other information that is out there on the website. And my staff is always available and willing to assist. You can reach our website by going either through the county website and clicking the tax department, or going directly to us at johnstonnc.gov/tax or jcto.org, which is our old email. If you wish to speak to one of my professional staff or to schedule an appointment for revaluation, please call our number at 919-989-5130. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, now is the opportunity for any member of the audience who wishes to address the board on an item that is not already, come forward and I'll finish talking. How about that? It is not already on the agenda to come forward. If you would, when I ask you to, if you would state your name and your general town or township where you're from. And just a reminder that this is an opportunity for the board to listen. It's not to engage as you're speaking on a particular issue. And I do ask that you keep maintain the proper decorum and make your comments in a civil manner. And the biggest thing is there's a 3-minute time limit. So if you would keep your comments to 3 minutes. So if you would, your name and your town or township.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Sampson. I'm sorry about my dress, 'cause y'all look very nice. I just got off work. I manage construction.
That's all right.
For a general contractor, a huge one. So, but I came today to speak to you about my neighborhood. I actually live in Johnston County and have been a tax-paying citizen in Johnston County for the past going on 4 years. I live on a road called Summer Wind Plantation Drive. And I'm coming to you today because I came in 2022 and met with the manager, and I met with the manager and director of public health and everybody here. I seen the nice 911 center and everything. But anyways, we talked about what I needed to do. It was in 2022. I need to get a lot of documents signed and stuff like that, get a petition done. I got that done and everything. Be honest with you, I stopped moving forward on it because I felt like it might have been a big, a deal where I didn't want to put my name out there publicly doing it. But I finally got the heart to come back and do it today. It's 2025. I'm gonna be honest with you. The name Summerwind Plantation should be dropped off of that street name. I got this petition signed within my neighborhood from multiple people that want to get it changed. The neighborhood name used to be Summerwind Plant. The reason it got the name is because it was built on the plantation land. The neighborhood name at the frontal sign used to be Summerwind Plantation. They got that changed in about around 2019 or something like that. They got rid of the plantation part and just it's called Summerwind now. But the main street kept the same name as the frontal sign. So the HOA and everybody wanted to get that changed because they changed the neighborhood sign. And they also came and tried, I heard they did come up to the commissioner's office or whatever and spoke to someone up here. My HOA director said he came and tried to make it happen, but somebody told him it couldn't happen or what. We're even, as stated on here, I went through some things with, back then I went with the business manager. I met with him a long time ago. I have emails, an email trail going back to 2021, 2022. And they gave me these, they gave me some names, too, that it possibly could get changed to. This is a big deal to me. My son is 4 years old. And we know how words are nowadays and how people can get picked on. He's going to kindergarten. And to be honest with you, I'm embarrassed to let my son, tell my son our address. I don't tell him. And be frankly, it's too long. Summerwind Plantation Drive, it's too much to write, and I hate writing. So I really will hope that you all can, ladies and gentlemen, can put in your heart to see how you can help me accomplish this mission for equality and also for respect factor for myself, my family, and other people that really just want to have a fresh start with a shorter street name. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And Jennifer and Chad, will y'all be able to look in this and report back to the board? Okay.
I did have a question.
Well, I don't know if we can, you asked the question and maybe we direct it this way, but go ahead.
All right.
Make a stab at it.
Now, my only question is, like, moving forward, how will I find out if any traction or anything happened with it?
If you would get with the manager, he's not here, but you get with Rick.
Get with Rick? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else wishing to speak?
Good, sir.
Good, Mr. Saunders.
Yeah, I'm back again. I've addressed this issue with Mr. Hester, and I forgot I spoke to one of y'all. I forgot which one was you. Okay. The problem that I'm having is that they sent, I spoke to Braxton, and they sent Cameron back out. Cameron Sutton, I think that's his last name. Sent him back out there, and he's in the planning department, but I initially had the complaint with the building permit because the issue that I'm having, if they would have followed the right protocol by getting a building permit, and to me, it's sending a message to the citizens of Johnston County that you can go and build something without a building permit that would affect your neighbor. But if you would have did it the right way and followed the proper protocol, I wouldn't even have the issue with the sheathing being directed with the water running on my property, which my property is already flooding because the subdivision behind me, they've covered up the easements, so all the water is already sitting on my property from Austin Drive, and some of it is even coming off Cornwallis. So I had to go buy a slump pump because my whole crawl space had flooded. And I have respiratory issues, asthma and stuff like that. So if mold and stuff gets in my house, I'm going to have another medical issue that I don't even want to deal with. And when I spoke to Braxton, he was like, well, the sheathing, they poured a 5-gallon bucket of water on it. And I know that man can't even get up with a 5-gallon bucket of water. He can't even hardly walk. So I know that wasn't even the truth. And I ran something off the internet that shows you if you angle the sheathing at an angle like this, even though it has holes in it, the gravity is going to make it run off of the sheathing onto my property, which I already got more than enough water on my property. So I need their water to stay on their property until I can get this other issue dealt with the subdivision behind me, so I won't have flooding on my property. And see, you know, I tried to talk to Mr. Hester, called him several times. He wouldn't even answer the phone. That's the reason I had called and asked to speak to you. So maybe we need to sit down and have a physical talk. And I even brought some sheathing with me in my car that I can do a demonstration if you want me to at the angle where the water will run off.
Do you want to leave those with our deputy clerk?
And,
so she can-
and under the,
What's his address?
it would-
under the adopted, reasonable use rule, it tells you, you can't divert water from your property onto your neighbor's property anyway.
What's your address?
It's 3025 Austin Drive.
Okay.
All right. And I think, Jennifer, do you have kind of an update on where we are? I know we talked about building inspections, planning.
Yes, sir. There's been extensive back and forth and investigation with regards to the concerns that have been raised by Mr. Saunders and Mr. Saunders' neighbor with regards to alleged violations on the property. From our investigation with this particular issue, a building permit for this accessory structure was not required. It does not meet the requirements for a building permit, and so there is no active violation for that. Now, there is a question that's outstanding as to whether or not there might be a zoning issue with regards to a setback violation, and that is one of the things that Mr. Taylor was looking into, and one of the things that we will address to the extent that there is an active violation. But a building permit is not required. And from what I understand, this particular structure at issue is a chicken coop. And so that is the issue or the thing that we've been looking at. But with regards to a building permit, that is not required, which is why building inspections has not issued any kind of violation, because there is no violation for which we can issue under the North Carolina Building Code.
Under the North Carolina Building Code and Johnston County's Building Code, any structure that becomes permanent and it's over the size of 12 by 12 requires a building permit. So that's even not even true. I mean, I can Google it up right now and pull it up, but it's over the size of a 12 by 12.
All right. I don't know that.
Yeah, but I can Google it or
Is there-
whatever.
And certainly, Mr. Lauder, what we can do is I can go back and do a comprehensive review of
Okay.
the timeline and communicate with Mr. Saunders what our findings are.
Okay. And so the other question, I guess, is he had mentioned the storm drainage easement and being filled. Is that something we've actively looked at?
The storm drainage issue, to me, that's a new issue that I've heard tonight. I've not heard that previously. I don't know if Mr. Newton has any additional information on that.
So the storm drainage issue should have been redirected to, or has already been redirected to, our stormwater division over in public utilities. And I can certainly communicate with them and find out.
I'll follow up on that issue, Mr.
Yeah,
Lauder.
just find out
If we can
what
kind
the
of get
status
something
is.
together for
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Saunders to kind of summarize everything.
All issues. Yeah.
Yeah, but trust me, 12 by 12, anything 12 by 12, a structure, permanent structure requires a building permit. But that's it, and hopefully I can get some numbers on who I could contact, and, hopefully we can resolve this matter, because I'm getting tired of coming up here having to deal with it.
I'm sure you are. All right. Thank you, Mr. Saunders.
You want to give me your number?
All right. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir. If you would come forward and state your name and town or township.
Appreciate the work you do. My name's Kirby Browning. Live right outside of Pine Level, probably in the Selma district, but I have rentals in Pine Level. And all my rentals went up 110%. Before coming tonight, I saw on Channel 5 that in 2019, that overall, that the evaluations in 2019 was only 24%. But this year, it's estimated to be 71%. So my situation or my concern is, I know we have to have revenue, we need revenue, and the county tax rates is 0.670 is what I understand, and I got no problem with that. But when you over-evaluate my property and other people's properties are being over-evaluated, at the end of the year, when insurance time comes, my insurance agent calls me and says, Mr. Browning, you don't have enough coverage on your home because it was $60,000, now it's $135,000. You see what I'm saying? That throws fuel on the inflation in Johnston County. Now, my suggestion to the board to consider is to lower the valuations down 25 to 35%. And if you need to raise the tax rate, that's 0.67 to get your taxes, raise the tax rate. Because if you keep upping the valuations, we're going to be like New York, California, and my child, grandchildren will not have a chance at the American dream of owning and paying for a home. Now, if it keeps going, we'll be moving out, and I've got some renters that 80 years old, widows, that's fixed income, paying $625 a month, and my stuff jumps up 110, then at the end of the year, my insurance say, hey, we can't cover you because you're underinsured. So that's my concern. Ain't got no problem about paying taxes, no increase, but inflated valuations. You see what I'm saying? And it makes a ripple effect concerning Johnston County and inflation. Thank you.
Can we address that?
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Because there may be other concerns out there that we might could address right here in the bud. I'll defer to you.
I would rather not, but let's try one and see where we go.
I think a lot of people might share that, Mr. Browning, but we didn't have anything to do with that value. It's a market value.
I understand that, but you're in
And
charge.
by law, it's got to be a market value. And the market set that, not us. And we can't go in there and artificially lower it. By law, we can't do it. And the market, you know, I was in the banking business. I still do some appraisal work for the bank. And when you look down the road and see houses that you know is, gosh, how did it sell for that much?
Right.
Well, that's what the appraiser looks at. You know, I got a neighbor's house that sold for 155 several years ago, and that sold for 340 3 months ago. Well, that's the market, and that's what the appraisal firm has to look at. And of course, we back into a rate based on that value. So, perchance that your taxes may not change much. It might have some influence on your insurance rates, but we can't affect that because that's the value of the property in the market.
Well, you understand my point.
Sure, yeah.
And then you got farmland or people that's got land they bought for hunting on,
Yeah.
that the value's way low and it jumps up, 60, 70%, and they can't even afford it.
Well, if
I
it's
mean,
under PUV, it'll stay under PUV,
Okay.
so, yeah, that won't be changed.
But that's my concern.
Sure.
If you could bring the valuation down 25%, 6.7, carry it up to 0.70, if that's what you need to get your money, and then we don't have the ripple effect. And then my tenants, you see, it's a double whammy
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Not just the county tax, but the insurance.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Yes, sir, name and,
My name is
Town
Donnie Ray Powell Jr., and I live in Selma. Appreciate the time. My comments are directed to those that are responsible for the outrageous amount figure that is on this piece of paper. And I realize for some, it will be a benefit to them, some. But for the vast majority, it is going to adversely affect them. And honestly, it's inexcusable and it's unacceptable. And, I think about, the families that are already struggling, that are already trying to make ends meet, the elderly, the single-family homes, the families that have really been having hardship for a long time. What y'all have done, you have put even more of a stress, more of a financial burden on the citizens of this county. And financially, you have broken the backs financially of the citizens of this county. And it's shameful. Honestly, it is shameful. And it is disgusting to see what is going on with all this evaluation and assessment. You know, when a thief comes into your house or your business, he steals your money, and it's illegal, and it's a violation. What is being done here is a violation, but it's done in the power of the almighty Johnston County government. But it's legal. They can do that. They can take exorbitant amount of money. And the coffers are going to be, y'all are going to raise the most revenue that's ever been raised in the history of Johnston County at the expense of the citizens of this county that you're supposed to advocate for, that you're supposed to protect their interest. But you we vote y'all in, and I know y'all are just part of the process, but we vote y'all in to advocate for us. We put our trust in y'all, and you have violated that. You have, basically, we feel abandoned, and it's not right. Just because it's legal does not make it right. I know there's a lot of growth going on in the county, and I guess that's part of it. But my heart aches for those that are already struggling, to make ends meet. How are they going to do it? And the gentleman talking about the insurance, now we got to go to our insurance agent and say, hey, our property value has gone way up. Now we've got to pay so much more. It's like a double jeopardy. It's a double tax. We got to pay so much on our insurance as well as the taxes that's gone on. And then y'all are going to sweep in about 6 months and try to save the day and smooth everything out. The logic don't jive. You can smooth talk it, sweet talk it, but it makes no sense what is being done here. And you can throw a couple of pennies of a discount based on a tax rate, but when you've got the amount way up here as far as the market value, when you throw a couple of pennies at us for a discounted rate, the math don't jive. It does not jive at all. And so I'm not happy about it. And do y'all really care about what's going on? Does the tax department, does the state, does anybody really care how this is going to affect the citizens of this county? Because honestly, it's a new year, new hopes, new dreams. They're being shattered by what's being done in this county. And it is inexcusable, and shame on the people that is responsible for this to be happening. So that's what I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Powell. All right, anyone else? Yes, ma'am. If you would state your name and your town or township.
My name is Alice Overby. I live just outside of town. Smithfield, North Carolina is my township. I missed the meeting this morning. I actually didn't know that you all had a morning meeting. I understand there were people who came to express concerns about the new tax revaluations. I know that the average was 70%. We have 2 properties, our house and a couple of acres over in Four Oaks, and they both doubled in value. So you're looking at 100% change, lacking maybe $500, $600. Excuse me, I'm a bit nervous. I don't know why. I taught school for 35 years, and I should be able to talk to anybody. My concern about the tax valuation, and I do want to pause and thank Jocelyn for her explanation of the procedures for appealing. When you get a letter in the mail, it states that in very straightforward words, but her explanation was much better. It made me feel better about the process because we will definitely appeal this. I am concerned, like the gentleman before me, that there are people who whose tax value, we have a lot of senior citizens out in our area, that they will have a hard time with this tax bill, and hopefully there is some way that they can get relief. Out where I live on Yeverton Grove Road, the property at the end of our road was purchased by Johnston County. They paid millions. You guys paid millions of dollars for that property. And I'm wondering at the back, in my mind, if this didn't contribute to the higher valuation of land out our way. But then I don't know, because I don't know what the comparisons are. Did you compare my land to land down the road? Did you do it in another part of the county? Is it based on like prior sales of land and lots. So anyway, I want to thank you for your time. I do want to express my concern because I do feel for myself, but I feel for my neighbors. I do very much, and the senior citizens of this county. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Overby. All right, anyone else? I do want to say there were 7 emails received since this morning's meeting, and they were from David and Judith Jones, Jeffrey Jennings, T.J. Ambrose, Kerry Quinn, Roy Tart, Ruth Jeltz, and Kevin Cherry. And so just wanted to say that all those were a very similar concern, has been mentioned here. And I would ask Ms. Andrews, haven't had an opportunity to hear what was brought up tonight, if you would come back and maybe address some things you heard that need to be addressed.
Surely. And let me just say, you know, we all live in Johnston County, and my staff has taken this very seriously because it affects them too. And many of them have elderly family members that live here, and yes, it does concern us. But we also know, like I said earlier, we don't love doing this, but that is part of the job. One of the concerns that I heard earlier, and I need to address it just to show that it's not an option, as great of an idea as it may be, it's not a legal option. The comment about lowering valuations, excuse me, can you hear me now? Okay. By lowering valuations by set percentage, so that would adjust a lot of things. As I mentioned earlier this morning, at the morning meeting, and let me just rephrase this again, every quarter, reevaluation year or not, every 3 months, my staff has to prepare information and turn over to the Department of Revenue regarding sales that have taken place in the county and compare them to the sales price to what we had it on the books for tax valuation. Like I've said, I don't know how many times today and over the last few months, 2019 was a lifetime ago. It was only 6 short years ago, but when you look at the market, it was a long time ago. And the market has changed more drastically probably in this 6-year period than it has in any 6-year period that I'm aware of in this county. Crazy. But all that to be said is every 3 months, once a quarter, we are required to submit that information to the Department of Revenue. And if our number, if our sales ratio, the comparison of the sales to what is on the books for tax value is either greater than 115% of value, which would basically show that we had a slowing market, or in an increasing market, which is what we've had, if it is less than 85%, it triggers us to have another revalue. They are not going to let us get that far away from what should be right at 100%, and here's why. There are certain entities that are required to be valued annually. I don't talk about this, but for instance, the railroad, that's valued annually. Other public service companies are valued by the Department of Revenue every year, and they tell us what we can build. We don't make that determination, they do. And if we get, for some of those, if we're off by more than 5%, high or low, then it triggers us not being able to bill at 100% like we do everybody else in this county. So they are looking at these numbers very closely. Plus, part of the reason for a reval is for people that have cars, for people that have personal property. Now, cars that are registered motor vehicles are valued by the Department of Revenue, and we're not part of that. We can look at them if somebody's got a problem with it. But those are valued annually. Personal property that are being listed in listing forms that also went out last week that are due by the end of the month, such as things like boats and mobile homes that are not considered real property and not part of the property, or things like utility trailers or unlicensed vehicles, that kind of thing. Those are valued every year. Okay, so every year since 2019, we also think about what's happened to the car market. During COVID, cars were hard to find, and even, especially used car market, those prices went crazy. And so their tax bills are going up and going up and going up. But real estate stayed the same for 6 years. Unless you have made an improvement to your property, there has been no change in the value of that property for 6 years because we couldn't. We didn't do a revaluation. So the purpose of the revaluation is not to make it a hardship on anybody. Nobody wants that. My office cares deeply, and I know this board does too, about the citizens of this county. And I hate that people assume that that's not the case, all right? But at the end of the day, we've got to fix it so there's a fairness issue. Because it's not fair for the people, the businesses that have business personal property that are being, they're having to list every year as well. And we have to value that every year. And yes, we depreciate every year, but we also, if they're putting new things in, we're increasing those values. If they become scarce, the depreciation sometimes is offset. So again, the values, we're trying to make it, the values be the same for all property, not the same, but the relativity to what the market is for personal property, for business personal property, and for real property, to all be the same, so that way, whatever the value is carrying its fair share of the burden for this county. So that's just very high level. Again, a couple things that I mentioned this morning. You as a board are very much aware that you've only learned of this in the last few days. This isn't something you've done. Yes, my office did the work in conjunction with the vendor, and we will own it because we did the work, and we will fix things that are wrong. But at the end of the day, we really believe that the bulk of them are correct. But if they're not, we want to hear it, we want to talk to people, and we want to get it right. And so they have their options out there. Again, what they got in the mail is not a bill. Now, today was the last day and is the last day to pay last year's bill timely. But we have no clue what that bill's going to look like in August. The values went up. All that really is doing is reflecting the value that you already have in the property. It's just changing the tax value on it. If your property was worth X on this piece of paper, odds are it's been headed towards that over the last few years. So again, nobody loves it. It's sometimes hard to understand. Not a great topic, but it's where we are. Again, we will gladly work with anybody that has issues and try to help through that situation.
Any other questions for Ms. Andrews? Thank you.
Just wanted to address the comment you made in the very beginning with regards to why we can't change the values and things like that. And I think it's important because we are, although we have nothing to do with the insurance companies and the way they do things, we are, obviously taking all of these factors into consideration as we go into budget season, as we go into making these decisions. But I think it's a valid point to explain that one of the reasons the insurance companies need to do this is that in the event you were to have a fire or something destroy the property, then you would want to know that your property was worth what the market value was, and the insurance company just wants to do the same.
And, along those same lines, many insurance companies have what they call replacement cost. And if you haven't made any changes to your property, but the price of wood or the price of whatever has increased substantially, and you haven't adjusted that, then you hope and pray nothing ever happens. But should that day come, you want to know you've got enough coverage to get back to where you were when that happened. And that's part of what that process, again, insurance, taxes, nobody loves them. Nobody loves them. But we have them for a reason. And so that's kind of, and I don't know, you brought up a point, I don't know that I finished all of that a minute ago about the sales ratio. The reason we got advanced, even though the board had already chosen to go 6 years, the reason we got advanced and we started getting letters 2 years ago saying, you will do a reval in 2025 is because our numbers were so bad. We were in the 60%. So that tells you how far off we were with things. So again, if we were to reduce this, guess what we're going to be told again? Guess what? You may not be waiting to do it when you want to do it because it's a bad reval. So that's, I think it's a great idea, but it doesn't fit with the way the law's written right now.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say, this is the first step in the process, and I know Ms. Overby had mentioned the neighbors and concern for that, and I think this board, as we see this process play out, you will see that the tax rate will be adjusted, and I think the 2 cents was thrown out. I don't know where that came from, but I think you'll see this board look to do the right thing and make that so there's a minimal increase on as many people as we can for their actual tax bill. So, and I appreciate everybody coming out and taking their time on a nasty January evening to come out and speak to us. So thank you. All right, moving on, the next items on the agenda are related to rezoning conditional use hearings. And as stated at the beginning of the meeting, the case 1604 modification has been tabled until February 3rd meeting. So that brings us to the first case, which is 2427. I will now open the conditional zoning district hearing and call on Braston Newton, our planning director, to present information on the background of this case.
Sir, good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. So case 24-27 does involve a 43.2 acre tract, and this is across 4 tracts of property in the 11,700 block of Cleveland Road in the Cleveland Township, and their request is to rezone from agricultural residential to general business conditional zoning district. Your owner or owners are Dorothy Hall, Joan and Glenwood Parish, and James Hall. Applicant is applicant representative Patrick Riley. Conditional zoning request is for a commercial flex complex or space. The existing land use currently is either timberland or farmland, and it is zoned agriculture as previously stated. Surrounding area surrounding land is zoned agriculture use for agriculture and residential purposes, and also general business conditional zoning, and is a storage facility. And immediately across the road from this property is an elementary school. The traffic concerns for this area: Cleveland Road has a traffic count of about 11,500 vehicles per day. This is a fairly recent count of 2022. This portion of Cleveland Road does appear on the comprehensive transportation plan as an existing boulevard needing improvement, and it is on the state's Department of Transportation's transportation improvement program to be widened to 4 lanes from NC 42 back to Barber Mill. There is no definitive date. I think the earliest start date would be like 2029 before that occurs. Maybe 2027, but I think it's 2029, or before that construction were to start. With regard to our land use plan, this property is located in a regional mixed-use place type, albeit on the periphery of that, but it is in that place type. And this denotes an area which is intended to be centers of activity to include a mix of retail, restaurant, service, civic, and institutional type uses. Residential units may be at the periphery of the development, but are not the primary use. Glad to answer any questions you may have. You will see there is a site plan there as well that's in your package. And a couple of things to mention. In addition to the improvements along Cleveland Road, there's currently planned, or in the transportation improvement program, there's a road that we have kind of named the Cleveland Connector, which would connect where you see the stub road coming off of Cleveland Road into the properties. It would connect that to an existing point of connection over in the Walmart shopping center over by NC 42. NCDOT has contacted the county and CAMPO, which is Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, about either eliminating that project from the STIP or the Transportation Improvement Program, or reprioritizing that project. in consultation with our partners at Campo, and it's Campo and the county's position, where we prefer the prioritization at this point. We don't want to lose it standing in that program, because once it's out, it's a process, a lengthy process to get it back in the program and get it funded again. We don't want to lose that ability quite yet. There are the interchange at Cleveland Road with Interstate 40 is performing well as the redesigned interchange of NC 42 and I-40. That is performing well, performing probably better than originally anticipated. But it is early for those interchanges and their impact in the area. We'd like to see a little more time to see what the models and what the traffic counts are looking like, and how its impacts on congestion over a longer term before we make any definitive decisions about the Cleveland Connector, which is why that was planned for that area to begin with. But with that said, I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have. And there is a site plan you should have a site plan at your station that actually has the layout. For a while, that's just a boundary of the two properties.
That existing plat, Marvin Farm Lane or Road, will that still be stubbed out in this plan?
Yes, sir, that will remain. So that is currently a DOT right-of-way, and if you're looking at the screen, it is to where the darker color lines is. That is the right-of-way, the point of right-of-way with NCDOT. If you recall, a couple of years ago, that was named by this board after they installed that right-of-way. Now, it is fully paved further in and does cul-de-sac as you go back toward the interchange. The right-of-way is solely to this point where this property boundary is. It does not go further into the adjoining property.
All right, any other questions? So, if not, I had, so is this the first, it seems like most conditional zoning cases, we've had some sketches of building locations. This is the first one where we've heard just the general business conditional zoning? I can't remember one, not mean there's not one, but.
I think this is the first where you're not seeing specific building locations.
Right.
And I'll let the applicant address that as to why they didn't show any building design. That's certainly something we can ask for.
And I guess in the, and we can talk about this further too, but there's 70-ish, 74, 5-ish permitted uses in the general business zoning table of uses. And I think there's 3 or 4 that have been agreed to be taken out. So we're still leaving it open to roughly 70 general business uses that could go out here.
That's correct.
Okay. And I'm assuming the water and sewer, are we committing, and this may be for council as well, are we committing any water and sewer just by the rezoning on this? That'd be it.
No, sir.
Okay.
You are not.
All right. Just want to make sure. Okay, I don't have any other questions. All right, thank you, Mr. Newton. And I'll ask the applicant to come forward and present any information relevant to this request.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Patrick Riley. Excuse me. My address is 49 River Ridge Way, Willow Spring, North Carolina. I am here as the applicant, also representing the investors that have this site under contract with the current ownership that you see listed on the application. Give you a little bit of context. These current owners already lost some houses and property and structures to the widening of Cleveland Road. The section of Cleveland Road in front of this property has already been 4-laned as part of the approach to the new I-40 interchange. They were compensated at that time, but it wasn't really their plans or their timing. But now they would like to go ahead and sell the remainder of their property, get the best value they can for it. For us, we want to give them the value that we can that makes sense on both sides of the table. And so to do that, we're asking and trying to get confirmation that the county and the community does support this site for commercial use for future business locations. As was already stated, the land use plan does say that is the long-term plan with the regional mixed-use center designation. Of course, if you look at the zoning map and just simply look at colors, it does look like a lot of residential agriculture. But if you drive the site or look at an updated satellite imagery, you'll see, actual uses around the site. Marvin Farm Road was mentioned. There is a residence at the end of that road, but the remainder of that road's kind of no man's land that's been kind of left over from the widening. And then there's a PSNC substation. It's like a 15,000 square foot fenced gravel area where they have their equipment that's tied into their underground gas main line that actually borders the north part of this property. And if you kind of take that northern border and head east, you hit Progress Energy's high-tension power lines. Those also cross this property. And to the direct east of the site, land's being used for boat storage, RV storage, trailer storage. As you work your way around to the south, there's a church, small church building. And then as you get back to Cleveland Road, kind of circling the property, there's a gravel lot now that's servicing parking for semi-trucks and trailers. So as far as asking for general business and the uses within that category, we feel like it actually ties in with the current uses that are around the site, even though the zoning will change. Obviously, Westview Elementary School is located directly across Cleveland Road. That is the reason for striking some of the uses that are under the general business zoning, because obviously we want to address some concerns of just what kind of businesses could go in across from an elementary school. But I mean, our ultimate goal for the site, and I guess one of the questions that's already been asked, why there's no building detail, to really plan and attract businesses. It's tough to show them a residential site only. So this would kind of get us a little further in the process to at least say we've got commercial zoning commitment. And then obviously we would come back with more specific site plans that would take additional review and staff approvals. But our ultimate goal is actually to pull some businesses out of Wake County, back across the line to Johnston County. That's businesses that still need access to Wake County, and with the updates to 40 and the widening of 40 all the way into Raleigh or to 440, we believe it's a great site for that, and also to attract, new businesses that, they're reading and hearing about the residential growth, the population growth in this area. And they want to provide some of the services and the products that are in demand now because of the growth that's already existed. And then finally, obviously access to the site, it's already been touched on as well. We show a road cutting into the site from the existing traffic signal intersection there in front of the school, and then it hits a roundabout and then goes north and exits the site. And again, that general path and that road wasn't part of our initial plans and intentions when we first got the site on contract, but during due diligence, we obviously learned of the STIP project that DOT had with the connection to 42 over near the Walmart. And so that roadway that you see there is coordination between our design team and NCDOT to make sure we could access our site, but what we build would be to their standards and would match up with any future road that they build coming from the north. And that is part of too, not just because we don't know exactly the types of businesses and the actual businesses, but that roadway adds a lot of unknowns to the site as well. And so to try to go ahead and start putting building footprints when we're still, tweaking a major thoroughfare kind of through the site, we're hoping we could do that at a later phase. I thank each one of you for your time this evening and your review. I'll be available for questions. Also with me is Garrett Frank with Frank Land Design. He's the civil and site design. And then also Lyle Overcash with Kimley Horn. He oversaw the traffic study and also the coordination with NCDOT. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Riley?
No, just want to make sure I heard correctly that this is all speculative at this point as far as what type of businesses, what size buildings, what any potential traffic impact would be at this point, correct?
Well, there was a traffic study done based on potential square footages and uses, but it is speculative. We don't have any signed contracts or leases with a specific business at this time. And then, of course, we do have The zoning would dictate certain square footage limitations in certain categories.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions? You want to put the conditions up? And I can't see from here, and I want to scroll through my, is there 9? Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And you're agreeable to all of those 9 conditions?
Yes, we are.
You can take another second if you, I don't think we've changed them on you, but you can take another second just to make sure. Yeah, I will note that, was it 2 that has the uses that are prohibited
Yeah.
on there? Okay.
Excludes 3.
Okay, 3, all right. All right, well, thank you, Mr. Riley. Anyone else here wishing to speak on this case? All right, and I will close the public discussion portion of this hearing and call on Mr. Newton to come forward and summarize and present the planning board's recommendation.
Sir, planning board's recommendation as it relates to case 24-27, conditional zoning, general business conditional zoning change. They do recommend approval and offers for your consideration a statement of consistency.
All right, any final questions for Mr. Newton? All right, thank you, Mr. Newton. And I will again just ask again for confirmation that the applicant did agree to the 9 conditions listed. All right. So we have that, and I will close the hearing, and I will turn it over to the board for discussion. Or a motion.
I'll just go on record and kind of go down the path you started in the beginning. I think as these cases have come up in previous months, we've been very hesitant to just straight rezone something general business without knowing the intended use, especially with our comprehensive land use plan and process. And I don't think there's any doubt that this area will be commercial and should be general business based on the location. But I do think with the proximity to a very busy exit, the proximity literally sharing a stoplight with an elementary school, I think it's in the public's best interest and the county's best interest that we be very specific on what businesses will go in there, what type of traffic will be right here at this exit, in order to ensure we don't end up with the hodgepodge that we currently have in several areas. Just my 2 cents.
Anyone else?
Bryson, in cases like this, I feel like we've done in the past, I'm not going to remember the right name of what we've done, but essentially where we can zone it commercial, but then they have to have a special use, not a special use permit. What am I trying to say? Special use.
So you may be alluding to a special use district, which is no longer permitted.
Okay.
So, which have statutory preclusion there. So special use districts were wiped away. What you can do is a special use permit if within your ordinance a specific use may be compatible with an area. You can approve the special use permit. What we used to do, and this was not unusual. We used to rezone a property to a special use district, which carried with it 0 uses. It was an empty district. Through the special use permit process, you then identify the use or uses and approve that through the special use permit process. This simplifies it. What conditional zoning does is it's the ability of the county and the applicant to essentially negotiate.
That's what I was looking for, conditional.
What you desire, what the county desires versus what or wants versus what the applicant desires, correct? It does give you the ability to negotiate. Now, with the caveat, for approval, or if approved, all conditions have to be agreed upon by the applicant. So it's legislative. Condition where special use is not legislative, that's quasi-judicial. There's a burden of proof on the applicant to to show or make evidence that they're entitled to that permit, right? It's not a situation. It's legislative, gives this body broad discretion. Once again, statement of consistency, not borrowing, but you would have to adopt if you choose to go against the recommendation, we'll have to bring back a statement of consistency that would reflect why you're not approving, and it would have to be approved.
Yeah, and I would just add to what I had talked about before is we're talking about 70-ish permitted uses out there, and I would like to have that noted, and I think that's what we've done. I can't remember one we've had that's had more than 12 to 15 uses on it. So 70 uses, and I'll just pick on a couple. I mean, there's a home residential business. There's no homes out there. I don't think that could be one. And then a flea market. I don't know that we want a flea market out there either. So it is very open-ended for what we have recently in the recent past have looked at once we started this process, is making sure that we want the uses there that are appropriate. And I can't argue with a whole bunch of the other ones on there, but it's just very wide open compared to what we've had before. And I understand that there's some speculation because you don't know what you can attract yet. So it's that kind of fine line that we're walking of narrowing down it to narrowing down to businesses that may or may not want to come to the area versus some that are already on the permitted list. So it's a tough call.
Yeah. I just want to echo what April said of how, with 40 being right there, it's definitely a business draw, but then also helping with congestion of traffic and everything else that's already a couple miles up the road. And then traffic with the elementary school.
Yep. So what are the wishes of the board?
I tend to agree with Commissioner Stevens. I think it's obvious this is going to be a commercial district, commercial area, and I don't think it's inappropriate to get away from the AR at this location. But given all the other factors, I'd like to know more about what's going to go in that neighborhood.
All right. Somebody willing to make a motion? It's not often the chair makes a motion, but I can if I need to.
Well, I would just like to say I appreciate the owner putting forth the work, and I do get the kind of a catch-22 situation is you want to attract businesses, but you can't attract them to it's not zoned properly, and it's a lot of money, a lot of everything for a developer to develop this into a commercial area that can attract that type of business. But I do appreciate the board's apprehension of what type of businesses could go there, especially with the school right there. So what are we suggesting, that we narrow down the list of conditional uses, or is it possible that that we move forward with zoning, but then the types of businesses then have to be approved at a later date?
So that's a good. So denial means what? Can't come back for a specific amount of time, or no?
It does. However, with a substantial change in the application, it could come back, but there has to be a substantial change. Now you have, and I'll ask our council to pop in if I'm wrong, and I very well may be. That's usually the case. So as I see it, you have three options. You could potentially, if the point of contention is the permitted uses, could table the matter.
That was what I was thinking.
We table the matter, we go back with the applicant, discuss with the applicant about, paring those down, getting those uses down to something that they can live with and the board can live with. Hopefully, bring that matter back at a future date. Obviously, we're going to have to note what date that is. Or you can simply take action on the matter, either approval or denial. Once again, if it's denied, they do have the ability to come back with but it has to be a substantially modified application.
But going from 70 to 30?
Not sure that
That's
would
not a
really-
substantial.
I'm not really sure that would meet muster and miles, but once again,
Yeah.
I'll defer to council.
I think we're to
I don't
table it
think
until-
that
Yeah,
would really-
it's, I mean, and I'll look to Mr. Riley, is tabling it, an option you would consider? If you would come to the microphone, I think that,
I mean, obviously, if it's tabling versus denial, I would go tabling route. And I would say we would be willing to reduce the amount of uses, but to the points that some have made already, that the more you make us reduce it, the less marketable it could be
Right.
to others. But at the same time, we're not trying to put anything there that the community wouldn't want either. So I don't know what time frame tabling gets us, if it gets us to the next meeting or a couple meetings out. There are contracts in place that we're trying to honor and meet deadlines on as well as far as purchase. Or if there's any way to put a stipulation tonight that we could submit additional reduction of uses, we'd be glad to try to go that route as well. But I can definitely say we'll strike flea market right now.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
yes, sir.
I was thinking the same thing, but, out of these permitted uses, which ones are so objectionable that we wouldn't agree to?
That's the only two I came up with when I glanced through that thing real quick,
So
so.
we're saying that that's the only two we can come up with, but the rest of them may or may not be objectionable? And some mix or categories together, or how do you get to what is an acceptable list of types of businesses that is agreeable to this group?
Even taking out two, we're still at 68, so
Yeah,
that's a lot. But
That's a lot.
I don't know that 30 is any better than,
well, is it
68.
any particular types of business or a particular mix of businesses that would be problematic out there?
Well, I think that's twofold.
yes.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think it's twofold. What we don't, obviously, and it sounds like there may already be contracts in place, so it may be, and just to answer your question, a quick conversation. Based on, I feel like some of the last meetings we've had over the past few months, it's been more of a, what type of businesses are you marketing to? Again, just to use the flea market as an example, not that's necessarily what you're planning to do, but if we just say yes, there's nothing that keeps you from doing it. So it's nothing against you or what the plans may be. It's protecting what, if we were to rezone it and you were to sell it tomorrow, what your intentions were tonight meant nothing. Unfortunately, the next person could literally put any one of the 70 scratch 3 permitted uses on here. And so it's important, I feel like, for us to truly guide where the development of the county is going, that we have a better understanding, at least, with the size of this development, what type of industries are you planning to go there? What type of businesses? And I feel like
Well, that gets back to my question. If we're gonna pare this list down to what are acceptable uses, what is the process that we're gonna use to do that so that we have a consensus that's what's gonna be acceptable to all parties here?
that's typically what Braston was saying. We negotiate what accepted uses are and then come back and everybody's on the same page and we would vote on it.
So if the applicant is willing to do that and the county is willing to do it, then we're good on that aspect?
I would be. I mean, just as long as we can, especially, not that I am obviously particular about that area, but, or, invested in that area, but with it being across from a
I
school.
think that's a reasonable compromise.
I agree.
I don't want to say we're going to deny it outright, but I don't want to leave it in limbo that if you table it, you table it for how long without a process to move forward.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to help their timeline is we look at tabling to the 21st, which is the next meeting's on Tuesday. At least get a chance to talk about those uses, and if we need to table it further than that, we can. If everything's good, we can take care of it on the 16th.
Are the conditions on there of what the ones that they were,
21st, sorry.
that they were going to exclude? I mean, we could have that as the conditions of making sure that they're excluding the bars and all
Yeah,
of
they've
that,
done
since
that.
it's across from the school. I mean, that could be in the conditions, is that all of those that were excluded are in those conditions.
Yeah, I think they're in there. I mean, I think Commissioner Stovall, it is, if we're at 70, what other, and I'm like you, I don't know any other really objectionable ones there, but I don't know what the combinations are going to look like. That's the part of what the mix winds up being, but I agree that I don't want to hold them up because it is going to be a commercial, bottom line is it's going to be a commercial area.
Right.
So what the mix is how important is that to us.
Well, if you take the ones out that are not acceptable and approve it based on the rest of them. I don't know if that narrows it
That's what I
down
was
as
trying to say.
narrow as everybody wants it to be, but if those are objectionable ones, 4 or 5 of them, whatever they are.
The only one, like, to me, glancing through there, flea market, and then there's no homes, so I don't know why that would be objectionable to take out a home business in there. So those are only the 2 that jumped out if y'all are looking.
Oh, there's a lot of rifle skeet, and, trap shooting, kennel, lumberyard.
I didn't see the house. I saw the kennel.
Mm-hmm. I would question gas station in that location, but
It is tabling till the 21st. Is that?
Poultry processing plant. Poultry processing.
Yes, because I wouldn't want to try to go through the list tonight.
No,
I want to hear.
I really don't want to do that either, so.
And,
Okay.
yeah, if there's any way to communicate between now and the 21st.
Yeah,
with
we
staff,
can through staff. Yeah, we can
try
do
to
that.
kind of know
You need a motion?
what's being asked for.
Yes, and you would make sure you table it to that date certain.
The 21st. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we table case number 2427, open conditional zoning district, to the 21st, and give the applicant an opportunity to pare this list down.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
All right, we have a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay?
Wholesale gasoline storage.
Mr. Riley, thank you for your patience in working with us. All right, next up, we have case 2431. I will now open the conditional zoning district hearing for that and ask Mr. Newton to present the background to us.
Yes, sir. Conditional zoning case 24-31 does involve a rezoning of 51/100ths of an acre located at 2893 Cornwallis Road in the Cleveland Township from agricultural residential to general business conditional zoning district. The owner and applicant are Danny and Jean Lee. Conditional zoning request involves a specific land use, which is an insurance office. The surrounding land uses and zonings are agricultural residential and used for such purposes. Also, once again, this is nearby. Elementary school is at the intersection of Cleveland and Cornwallis Road as well. And there's also a Hardee's. There are additional zonings of adjacent properties that are general business at 3 of the quadrants of the intersection of Cornwallis and Cleveland Road as well. Traffic concerns, Cornwallis Road, 7,000 vehicles per day. This is a 2023 count, and Cornwallis does appear on the comprehensive plan as an existing boulevard needing improvement. Currently, there are no scheduled projects or program projects for Cornwallis Road that would involve management of congestion or movement of traffic along Cornwallis. You do have some improvements at specific intersections along Cornwallis, but it is limited to those intersections. It is not associated with the length or traffic lanes widening, anything of that nature. With regard to our land use plan, this area is noted as a medium-density residential future land use place type, and it is near a neighborhood center place type. That neighborhood center is focused on the Cleveland Road, Cornwallis Road interchange. And once again, there are areas of within that interchange or intersection rather that are already general business, and those are general use districts. You will see a site plan in your package. There will be some minimal improvements to the property in terms of accessible parking an accessible route to the building if it is approved, and we'll look at that time in a little more detail with the applicant, and that'll be handled through a full site plan review process and building permits. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer those for you at this time.
Do I understand they're going to still utilize this building, or are they going to raise it?
My understanding is they will utilize this building, but if there's something that differs,
Modify.
I'll allow the applicant to respond.
Any other questions for Mr. Newton on this? If not, we'll hear from the applicant regarding the request and the proposed conditions. And Ms. Reeves, if you would put up the conditions on the screen this time for us. Come on, don't worry about it.
Mr. Harris.
Yes, sir.
My name's Danny Lee. I live in the Cleveland community. Me and my wife is taking on the challenge of working on this structure. Patrick, probably, Mr. Harris, you probably knew what I'm talking about. But we've done a lot of improvements already on the property. We are going to have concrete driveway put in, parking area. That's in the process. But, you know, there's insurance businesses all over, and right now I'm currently running my insurance business out of my house. And it's getting to be uncomfortable with people driving down my driveway to get car insurance. So that was the purpose of purchasing this property, improving the property, improving the look of the area that it's in. And I've done a lot so far as improving the structure. The landscaping will happen after everything else. People driving through the yard doing construction is done. So don't know how much I'm gonna be able to do, but that's my intentions. Any questions for me?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm getting my papers back.
Any questions for the applicant? Have you read the conditions that
I
were
have.
placed on it?
I got them right here.
Do you agree with those, or are you? okay
Yes, sir, I
with those
agree with those.
10 conditions.
Yes, sir. I've already got my permit from the North Carolina DOT.
Okay.
That's already happened. I've got quotes coming in for concrete driveways. So, the only one I had a question was the, shrubbery and stuff like that. But there's already shrubs and stuff. I mean, I told the ones that are down around the house, but the other ones is just minor.
Right. So the requirement would be a certain amount, and that's where the planning department would send someone out and work with you.
But it says existing vegetation.
Yeah,
may be
existing
used.
vegetation
Okay.
counts, and it's got plenty of vegetation around it. There's
So that'll
fruit
be
trees down
something
one
the
side.
staff will get worked out.
Yeah, they'll work with you on
Okay.
that.
Yeah. But I'm willing to do whatever needs to be done to make this happen.
Okay. Any questions for that? Okay. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here else that would like to speak on this topic? Okay, hearing none, then we'll close the public discussion portion of the hearing and ask for Mr. Braston to come back and summarize the planning board's recommendation, please.
Yes, sir. Planning board's recommendation as it relates to case 24-31 and its conditional zoning request, planning board does recommend approval and offers for your consideration a statement of consistency.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Newton? All right. And then we've heard from the applicant that he is agreeable to the conditions. All right, so I will close the hearing and turn it over to the board for discussion and/or a motion.
Chairman, I make a motion to adopt the statement of consistency resolution as presented in the agenda packet and approve the rezoning request with the conditions as discussed.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. In absence of Mr. Hester, any deputy manager reports tonight? All right, thank you. And I'm going to go start on the other end. Commissioner Davis, any comments tonight?
Not since 10 o'clock this morning.
No new development.
No.
Yeah. Commissioner Stovall?
No, sir.
Commissioner Godwin? Always reserve the right to come back if you need to.
it's hard to sit here quietly. Maybe that's the best thing to do sometimes when people accuse you of personal negatives, you know. If people, I'm sure when they get this notice, if they've got in their mind what people have expressed tonight, they think we're uncaring and bad people, and that's bothersome to me. We can't seem to get them to understand that this is not increasing their taxes. This case we just approved, the tax value, the new tax value is half of what the person paid for the property. That's the market. So we didn't jack that rate up or that amount up, that's the market. And I just hope people can understand that we don't have anything to control that. My property tax went up $170,000. Right down the road within sight, a house, what I consider a $200,000 house, sold 3 months ago for $340,000. I didn't have anything to do with that, but that's the market. And that's what determined what my value is going to be, not this board. I just hope people out there understand that and that we do care about what's happening in this county. Thank you.
Commissioner Stevens?
Oh, he skipped. I just kind of want to echo what Commissioner Godwin said and just, talk a little bit about tonight. I think, the biggest thing we want the public to know is we care very much about all the constituents. We care very much about the county. We care very much about the direction of the county. And we only control certain pieces of that. But at the end of the day, we want to help everybody in the county that we absolutely can. So, like Jocelyn said many times, there's a lot of resources. I found out about resources today that I didn't even know we had for those that are lower income with regards to their property tax bill. So I just hope that information is getting disseminated. And also I put out a charge to the local real estate community, just get in touch with your clients and help them through this process. If any of the assessments are wrong, we deal with appraisals every day, and we understand that an appraiser can only give an opinion of value based on the information that they're given, and they don't know these properties intimately like the homeowners do, like the neighbors do, or like their real estate agent does. So the best thing they can do is get educated. And like I said, the real estate community is there to help however they can. And just to echo what Commissioner Godwin said, we're here to help any way that we can.
Yeah, and I would just, still on the same topic, which is ask citizens that when they look at the new tax appraisal on this letter, it's shocking how much it's gone up. But ask yourself, is it inaccurate? That's the thing. When I've spoken with a lot of people, and they're shocked that it has gone up double. And I ask, well, would you sell for that, or do you think it's worth that? Well, yeah, it probably is. So just ask yourself that, and if it is inaccurate, then as Andrews has outlined, a great number of steps that can be taken to reduce that number. If it is inaccurate, there are going to be mistakes, and we don't want there to be mistakes. We want everybody to be as accurate as possible with their tax valuation. And after that, I would just say, is it honest? Is it a true value of what the property's worth? If it is, rely on us to do our job and to try to make everybody's tax burden as little as possible.
All right. Vice Chairman Harris?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to thank Ms. Andrews for her diligence in explaining it as many possible ways as she could. I don't know how you could explain it any more thoroughly than you have today, and I appreciate that. I hope that people will understand that I think I can speak for the whole board and say that I think everybody up here loves this county and loves the people and loves the farmers and the moms and the dads and the aunts and the uncles and the grandma. I mean, there's a love for the people in this county. And sometimes we have just enough authority to get blamed for a lot of stuff that we don't have control over. And the market value is something we don't have control over. That's just not something we can change. We can't adjust it if we wanted to. But we can adjust the tax rate. And every 12 months, we get the opportunity to do that. And if you go back and look at the history of this board in the last 5 years, I said it this morning, I'll say it again, we've dropped the tax rate 11 cents in 5 years. And I anticipate I can't get out there and say how much it's going to be this time, but I anticipate that everybody on this board is going to support dropping it as much as we possibly can and still be able to offer the services that the people in Johnston County expect us to offer. And so I think we got a lot of work ahead of us, and we'll work diligently to do that, to get the numbers. And we just ask the citizens to be patient. That is not a tax bill that they got. I think everybody said that multiple times today. It's just the new values, and they were shocking, but 6 years is a long time. And so a lot of things happen in 6 years, you know. And so I'm hopeful that everybody can understand, and let's all work together and try to make this thing as seamless as we possibly can. And I appreciate the board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, could I react to some of what I just heard?
Sure.
I'd like to offer a few comments, because the thing I'm hearing from the citizens, they're shocked about how much the value has changed. Well, as Johnston said, it's supply and demand. And if you look at what has happened over the last 5 years, there's been a mass migration in this country. People are moving out of high-tax states, high real estate, the Northeast, Ohio Valley, California. And where are they moving to? There's 4 locations. South Carolina was number 1. I think Florida was number 2, North Carolina number 3, and Texas is number 4. These people are selling out there because they don't like the conditions they're living under, but they're selling their real estate at exorbitant prices. They're coming down here with a lot of cash on the hip, and they're paying asking price in some cases plus, and they're driving the market up. It's some degree. You say, well, that's artificial inflation, but you got buyers there that are putting this demand in place, and unfortunately, that demand is starting to drive the local builder out. And it's attracting all these large tract builders that are coming in, most of them from out of state. They're building high-density housing. A lot of them are rectangular box-style houses with minimal architectural features in them. But they're selling for over $300,000 a piece. You know, and most people around here can't afford that, you know, when you look at the reality of it. But these people that are moving in, they can pay these exorbitant prices, they can buy the land, and they still got money to put in the bank and live well off of it. It's changing the character of this county. And I heard the gentleman say this morning, says, you folks up here need to start thinking about the people who actually have lived here rather than the ones who are coming here and deal with that. But we don't control the values, but we do control to a certain extent how we develop the property that's here. And that's what that land use plan was intended to get a handle on. So I think that we need to go ahead and push forward and get these new development ordinances in place to support the goals and objectives in that land use plan. And that, in addition to adjusting the tax rate back to something that is more neutral with the rising values, is going to garner public support that we are looking after Johnston County. That's all I got to say.
Well, I was just going to add, we've talked enough about the revaluation. I just wanted to make note that our next meeting will not be on the 3rd Monday. It will be on the following Tuesday, the 21st, at 6 o'clock. So just make that note for those folks who are planning on being here, that it will be on the 21st of January.
Yeah, it's a federal holiday.
All right. Any other discussion?
I meant to also say, sorry, excuse me, that Bill and I had the opportunity to tour with the Public Health Department this afternoon in between our breaks and meetings, and I know Mike went last week as well. And I just want to commend Dr. Pearson and her staff at the Public Health Office. They do a great job, and I was very impressed today on our tour, and I'm very excited and blessed to be that's part of our county. So.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you.